Do you know how to inspire other generations other than your own? We are going to talk about bridging the gap between generations and why. Well, let me tell you a little story. I was talking to one of my clients. He's a business owner and, well, he's around my age. And he said, Lexi, I don't get it. When the young ones, 20 plus, three of them, are going to a client, they call me and they ask me, what do I do now? I don't get it because back in the days, we had to be resourceful. So now I had a few ideas about that. And yes, I'm going to share them with you. So today we are going to talk about this framework. And I'm going to start with a little story about back in the days, and then I'm going to nowadays. All of this has to do with how current technology and the lack of technology influences us when it comes to being resourceful and taking ownership. Now, a long time ago, somewhere in the 90s, I was at the Academy of Arts. It was in a different city. I had to take the train, and in the city itself, Rotterdam, I had to take the tram. And well, imagine this big folder, because Academy of Arts, right? And I did audio and video, and it wasn't like I was using this small camera. No, I was using this big of a camera, which meant that my tripod was, well, sort of about the height of my hips. And then it was in this massive case, literally this big and so high. And of course, so was the camera. So here I am on my way to the Academy of Arts. I'm in the tram and someone bumps into me and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And that moment he gets out of the tram and people let me know he robbed you. He took my wallet. Now again, this was early 90s. So don't think I had a mobile phone on me, because back then, well, maybe a few years later it was really introduced, but back then, no such thing. So there I was, and I was like, oh, how am I going to go back later on? I don't have any money. My season pass, it's in my wallet. So how am I going to convince the one on the train that I actually can travel it? Well, that was one thing. And the other was, but I don't have any money. So I think I was mostly worried about how I could get back and if they wouldn't be able to actually get cash from my cards. So I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And so I went to the Academy of Arts. Luckily for me, I was able to make a phone call. And my sister lived in Rotterdam. Actually, she still does. So in that time, we actually knew one another's phone number. Can you imagine that? Do you actually still know the phone numbers, the important phone numbers of the people who are closest to you? Something to consider, especially when something might happen and you cannot use your phone or you don't have access to your phone. Anyway, getting back to the story, there I was, and I called her, and luckily for me, she came over and she helped me out. I'm not sure what happened, but part of me remembers that I wanted to go to the police because, well, I had to let them know that they got my wallet. And the thing was, I needed something, some proof for on the train that I was mugged, right? So things sort of turned out good. But what I didn't know was that by that time, someone had found my wallet and they had called my parents. My parents didn't know what was going on because I had not reached out to them. I had reached out to my sister. Well, you can imagine what they were thinking. Rob, Mark, Dad? They didn't know. So it wasn't until I got back at my place that I got to hear a voice message. And well, no, I actually was still living at the house. I was still living at my parents. That they told me, yeah, we got a phone call and you were worried sick. Okay. So if you think about those phone booths back then, it was literally, if you needed to reach out to someone, how were you going to do this? Well, in this case, I was lucky enough, I believe, to be able to make a phone call from the Academy of Arts. Otherwise, I would have to search for a phone booth. And then it was like, oh, is this going to work out? Is it's not going to get stuck? And what if I cannot reach anyone? What's going to happen? And like I said, there was so much involved when it came to how am I going to tell someone that I don't want to be fined? And that was literally the most important thing. So part of it was, what if they want to rob me blind? But then on the other hand, I don't think I had that much money on there, but it was enough, to go places. Well, anyway, everything turned out just fine. But like I said, I had to think about it. So I had to be resourceful, as in, who am I going to call? But like I said, the numbers of my parents, the number of my brother, and the number of my sister, those were the numbers I knew by heart. So that saved me. Now, I'm going to fast forward and go to a different example. So nowadays, we have our phone with us, right? Sounds good. But every once in a while, I don't know about you. Sorry, this is live. I forget to charge my phone, or I am going outside and I'm going to do Pokemon Go. Why? Because, I have mobility issues. So back then, in the days when I was carrying, remember that big case? Things didn't work out really well either, but at least I could walk. I could walk distances. I couldn't jump, I couldn't run, but I could walk distances. And for the life of me, I still don't know how I actually did it, but I did it a few weekends. Quite a number of weekends that I actually took the camera and the tripod and recorded things. So again, fast forward. I'm out there, I'm going to the grocery store, and I'm like, okay, I need to go there, I need to exercise. So I take my phone, I take my other phone. The other phone is only used in the US. So I don't have a SIM card for that one, unless I'm in the US, and then I get a number for over there. So, well, there's one thing left. This one serves as a hotspot. Well, I don't know if you know it, but what happens to your battery is... Now, I've become a little bit lazy lately. When I go for grocery shopping, I get my bag, and I get this one, my wallet, I leave it at home. When I'm in the car, that's when I have my wallet, because driver's license, everything is in there. But when I'm on my bike or I'm walking, no. So there I was walking and I was looking, this is not good. Battery turned red. What time is it? Can I still go into the store and get another battery pack? I wasn't sure. And then, oh, no, it's closed. Okay, yeah, it's red. How much do I have left? Okay, I need to get rid of Pokemon Go because that's getting all the energy from the phone. And I need it because, well, if I want to get a discount, then I need it. And if I want to pay, it still needs to work. So, you don't want to know how many times I was like, oh, this is not going good. And yes, at times I did buy a battery pack, so a slim one, if I was in time. But yes, the moment that I was there and I was like, it's only like 2%, is this going to work? Fingers crossed. So that. Now, I don't know when you grew up, but I know this much. There's a big difference between the time that I grew up and the current generations are growing up. Nothing wrong with that, but there are some things that we might need to consider. So let's go back for a second to that one story where I was mugged in the tram. Not sure what to do. Well, I basically had a one-track mind. I need to go to the Academy of Arts, get rid of all that stuff. That was the most important thing. And it wasn't hard for me to come up with the solutions. I'm not sure. I think I was sort of like in a bit of panicky feeling, but I'm not someone who gets stuck. So that's the good news. And well, my sister, when she picked up and she came over, everything was okay again, except for that part that my parents thought that I might have been killed or something. And this is what this is about. This is about resourcefulness and about what are we going to do. So first of all, when it comes to basically everything, it's about ownership. So it's about resourcefulness. What are you going to do? And it's about, do I actually know what to do if I wouldn't have my phone? And that's actually what's at the base of this entire life. Because when I talk to my client, basically what he said is, they don't know what to do. Now, I can be mistaken, but I do know a thing or two. And that's when young people go out somewhere, the first thing they do, check the phone, go on YouTube, go to Google, whatever it is, ChatGPT, they will find their answers. So the question might actually be a little bit different. The question might actually be, so how are they guided when it comes to, hey, have fun, go to the client, and I'll see you again. The question is, does that work? So when we talk about leadership, which at the heart of this framework, the question is, are we talking about leadership when it comes to the business owner? Or are we also talking about leadership when it comes to the employee? I think it's a bit of both. And to emphasize that, let me tell you yet another story. So when I was done with the Academy of Arts, I started to work for a company called Pink Elephant. And I was part of, listen to this, class of September 92. Yes, class of September 92. That meant that during a month, I would be trained on all kinds of things, whether it was, back in the day, some still use WP. I was trained on Word and Excel. But yes, WP 5.1, I think it was. And I didn't have to do that. But also a lot of other things. When you would go to a client, and I remember that pretty quickly they took me out of the class together with some other people, and we got trained in some other stuff too, which was specific for the client I was going to go to. Now, I'm very well aware that by the time I joined Pink, we had about 500 employees. When you only have like a few employees, say somewhere between 4 and 10, there's no way you can give them a month of training, because who is going to do it? But there are still things that you can do in order to guide them. So I sort of had my mind working, and I was like, so you want to organize a workshop? And a workshop can be maybe half a day, maybe a day, but the workshop should have the elements which are related to resourcefulness, because that was basically the question. You get somewhere, there's a problem, you do not know ahead of time what the problem is going to be, what are you going to do? And what it comes down to is that basically the others might not even know what to do either. The difference is they do know how to get that information, and that's when it comes to resourcefulness. So I said, well, what if you were to organize a workshop? Say you would talk the same language that they do, because I believe that's one of the things that's so very important. So recently I got this, they described me as a connection catalyst, which I love. So and it really applies to who I am. So basically I translate things for one party into the other one and makes them work together and understand one another. It's something that I've been doing all my life, especially when I started working in IT. I always say I got the odd ones out, so the ones that most people didn't know how to handle. And well, you know, it takes one to know one. So we did understand one another. It always worked out beautifully. But here's the thing. What do you do when it comes to resourcefulness? So let's say that you've got maybe 3-4 new people. You've got, say, 3-4 senior people, and you are the business owner. What are you willing to invest when it comes to time, when it comes to money? Because here's the thing. Sure, you can say, I don't have the money for any of it. But what if that little bit of money and, say, 4 hours time would actually help you out when it comes to growth? Because when you guide the new ones, the younger generation, properly, it's going to pay out for you, right? Because then they'll know what to do. They won't harass you anymore. They get to do their own thing. And there's this golden rule. People support what they create. So if you have people think along with you, oh, that could give a big difference in attitude. But they want to be seen. People want to be seen, heard, understood, respected, valued. They want to be acknowledged. And that's what this is about. So if you have someone new on the job, make sure someone is around so they can knock on their door. Now, let's get back to the idea of gaming. So current generations knows all about gaming. And what if we pull them into that same vibe? So let's say, okay, we have an assignment for you. If you played well, you are allowed to go paintball. But in order to do so, well, there are a few things you need to overcome first. So they are dropped at a location, it's pitch black, and they need to figure out where the paintball guns are and the paintballs themselves. Well, what are they going to do? How are they going to find light? How are they knowing where they need to go? So that's one of the first questions. And then next, if they actually find the stuff, they need to put it back together because it's not in one piece. Now, why am I saying all these things? Because when you do so, you are going to trigger their senses. So maybe they go to a place where it might not even be that dark, but there are like lights and there are sounds and everything is distracting, which could be like the way it is in real life. I mean, if you are there at a client and the client can work, well, you can bet that the client is going to knock on your door. How long does it take? How long does it take? When do you already have an idea? So you get interrupted all the time. So that's something that you want to do too. Now, if you don't know where to look for, that's why I said you have no clue. So you have to figure out where the stuff is. And then when you see the stuff, it's like, oh, it's all in pieces. What do I do now? Now, say that to some degree you can do certain things, but then you get stuck. What do you do? Who do you reach out to? Now, there's one rule. You cannot call your boss. The boss is too busy, so that's a no-go. The assignment is you are, with the 3 or 4 of you, go figure it out. Now, the good news about this workshop is you are not on your own compared to when you would normally go to a client. So this is about talking with another, discussing one another, and figuring out where they have to get certain equipment in order to be able to play the game. But here's the catch. The longer it takes you to actually assemble all the stuff, the shorter time you've got to actually play the game. So there's something at stake. Now, if they do it, they have some time left, they can have some fun. And of course, what's important is that at some point you are going to discuss what is going on. How did they do it? Now, in this example, we talk about playing paintball, but of course, you want them to be familiar with your business and the things that you can expect. So if you have senior people, you want them to gather 10, 20 cases from really simple to really difficult. And then you start testing them. So what did they learn from the paintball game, from that part of the workshop? Again, that's why reflection is key. So you're going to go over those 20 cases. And initially, you're allowed to also talk to the others, but it's also said, please keep in mind that at some point, you might not be able to consult, especially when each of you is going to a different customer. But then again, since you are the class of Beep, make a WhatsApp group called Beep, and you can always figure out what to do. Now, here's one thing. You might be able to reach out to senior, but the senior's time is limited, so you can only call during these 5 minutes of the hour. Or maybe that's not even the possibility, and the senior will let you know when you can call. So it's all thrown back on resourcefulness, right? And from there on, we go on. So they start with the simple things, and what they do is they learn to develop that skill of being resourceful. They learn to think like, oh, how are we going to fix this? Now, since they are good at gaming, they're probably very resourceful when it comes to getting solutions. The difference is with the game, you can pause, you can hold. Of course, when you're gaming with other people and you want to win, you're glued to the screen, so you don't want to leave at all. But in this case, it's about more. You actually need to have interaction with a person who is a client, who wants to be heard, who wants to be seen. And well, since the client has to pay, they also want to know that you're doing something. And well, the client always wanted it yesterday, so that's something to consider too. So let's get back to this triangle. So when someone goes to a customer, then there are a few things which are really important. And well, first of all, it's about how do they present themselves. Do they know what they are talking about? Do they actually talk to the customer in a way that the customer feels understood? And that brings us to especially this part, which is about awareness. Now, this is a little bit of a sort of difficult topic for some out there, not for everyone. But the awareness is about, are you aware of what the customer needs? Are you listening to the customer? Do you give the customer the feeling that he or she is being heard? That's a very important one. When you come over there, they do expect, and we get back to it later, good service. But it starts with them saying, okay, this is wrong, figure it out. So, yeah, are you aware of what it is they need? And when they describe the problem, do you already know where you need to go? And then when we talk about contribution, it's about shifting things. So the question is, when you go to the customer, is what they're telling you actually the thing that they need, or is something else going on? So you also need to be able to talk about the customer like, okay, you think it's this? Okay, share a little bit more. And then, well, if you still have that app with your teammates, so the new ones, then you can consult with them. But it's about asking on and listening to what has not been said, and listening to, so what's the symptoms, and could it be that someone else is causing the malfunction? Equipment, networks, I mean, nowadays with IT, power, there are a lot of things that can be responsible for something not working at the client. So you need to figure out, what is it? Ask on, be aware. And now we get back to playing games and being on your phone full time. Because let's face it, how long are you on your phone nowadays? And I don't care how old you are, but how much time do you spend on your phone? So I don't know if you have children, or maybe I should say you have parents when you're at the dinner table. But regardless, maybe your spouse, what do you do when you are at the dinner table? Do you put it down? Do you have attention for the people around you? And maybe you are alone, could be true too. So are you still aware of what you're eating? And it's better for you, it's healthier when you are actually aware of what you're eating and you're paying attention to it. But yes, that part of awareness, a lot of people, they live in their own bubble. And let me get back for a second to that story when I was talking about going to the grocery store. Do you remember that one? So here I am walking over, and I've got this backpack. It's actually a foldable bag. And let's say my phone is charged and I can get my discount and I can pay, then chances are that I want to take the backpack with me on my back. Now, if I'm with my bike, no problem. If I'm by car, no problem. That used to be different, by the way, but nowadays, no problem. But when I'm walking, I need a little bit of support. And that's when we get back to awareness, and also a little bit to when it comes to contribution. So I need to walk up to people and ask them, can you help me out? So usually I look for someone who's somewhat taller than I am, and ask them if they can put their hand underneath the bag so I can put my arms through the holes of the bag. And once when they have kept it up and my arms are in the holes of the back. So basically the straps are over my shoulders, then I can walk on and do my thing. So I need their contribution in order to be able to do grocery shopping if I have more than one thing and I'm walking. But yes, awareness, because they are there at the self-scan. So they are probably, where's the barcode? Where can I find this, that, and the other? Maybe they are talking to someone on the phone. Maybe they are thinking about what they are going to do when they get home. Maybe they are in a rush. But chances are they are not aware of their environment. And talking about that one, please be aware that when you are in a grocery store, especially when we talk about the staff, there's staff over there and they like to be seen and acknowledged. So, just have a friendly word, say hi. You never know when you're going to need it. But apart from that, it's about making others feel good. So, now getting back to the whole idea of people going to customers. So we've talked about leadership, which is also the way that you talk to the client. So can you actually help them out? Can you make them feel heard? It's about awareness. So are you aware of what they need and what's going on? We're talking about contribution, which is about making a difference. Ownership, which is about being resourceful. And then there's that part which is service. That's doing things with a smile and a heart. So when you go through the grocery store, don't just think those people need to service me. They need to help me out. They need to make me smile. They are human beings, did you know? So they like to be acknowledged too. And I can tell you this much. If you just give them a smile, it's going to make their day so much easier. So again, think about that for the next time. If you, as a business owner, can take the time out for such a workshop, it won't cost you that much. It's a couple of hours, and those hours you will get them back when they know what to do. So down the line, it will pay off. And if you do it with other people who are new, then they can actually bond. So you could discuss, am I going to create an app group just for the newbies? Or maybe there's a second one where they can also talk to the seniors, but during certain hours, so they can see when the senior is actually around. Maybe the senior will ask, oh, do you need help? I've got some time right now. Those are the things that you can do. But when no one's around, it's key that they know what to do. So business owner, it's your job to make them feel like, hey, I am appreciated here. I'm not just hired. I don't just get paid, but I'm appreciated. Now let's take this one step further. If you actually do the workshop, and especially when you say, okay, time is involved. The longer you are working on this, the less time you have to play paintball. Now, that might be a problem or not, depending on whether it's a fixed price or not for the service. When it's not a fixed price, you actually want to make sure that people are aware of the time they spend over there. And that's why it's so important to also talk about, hey, what happened? What did you do? How much time did you spend over there? Show it. So in the beginning, you actually want to make sure that they know what's expected and also why. I mean, if they don't write down the hours, then there is no income. And well, if the business has no money, then how are you going to pay the one who went to the customer? So they need to learn that it's not just about going to the customer, but also writing down how much time they spent over there and what they did. So say they have been doing the workshop. How about on Friday during lunchtime actually say, okay, you did the workshop, awesome job, and you acknowledge them during lunch. Like, okay, Friday night, we are going to make sure that we're all together and we are just going to celebrate what you've done. And then make them really feel at home. Now, in case you are like, really? You were part of a class, September 92? Well, that may be true, but I'm going to fast forward to the year 2000, yes, the new century. And I was working for a new company. And I was working with other people, new people. And there was a generation missing between me and them. So they were close to being retired. And I was there and had so much freedom that I had no clue what to do. I didn't know what they expected from me, nothing. And then someone came over and said, okay, so what's expected from you? And we talked about the clients, and he said, okay, this is what you need to do. This is what's expected from you. And well, that felt pretty good, actually. So it wasn't necessarily very long, but I knew that I always could go to a senior whenever I needed some understanding. And that's basically what I did. I would walk up to them and say, hey, do you know how? Now, there was also the possibility when I was working from home, because we could get in whenever we wanted and at whatever location we wanted. So it was kind of nice that there was this platform that you could reach out to one another and actually ask, okay, so I need some assistance, or what are you doing? I need to go there, whatever it was. But you were connected. You were connected with the other people, and that was good. And here's the thing. And now I'm going to go back in the days. Back in the days, if you wanted something, you literally had to go out to meet someone and get it. It wasn't like you call Amazon, you order something online, and the next day it's there, hopefully, or the same day it's there. But it was like, okay, where does it need to come from? Is the store still open? Can I go there myself? Whole different ball game. It was when you would go on the phone and ask them, do you still have it? And again, that might have meant that you would need to go to a phone booth in order to acquire if they actually had what it is you needed. But say it would come from abroad, then it would take time to be shipped. So whole different ball game when it came to what you could expect. So back then, it was kind of nice to actually see people. Now, of course, when it comes to working, depending on what kind of business you're in, you might be always indoors, or you might actually go and see customers. And the question is, how much does someone trust you and rely on what used to be the norm? So since COVID, of course, people had to work from home. They had makeshift rooms where they would start working, usually on their own devices, instead of something from their business, from their employer. But what I noticed after COVID was that a lot of people still were required to actually go to work. And when I see the amount of traffic that we have nowadays, the time that traffic jams start is early. And it's not just on Tuesdays and on Thursdays, it's on other days too, especially on Fridays. So the thing is, how are you going to get your information, and what is expected from you when you actually go somewhere? And for the new generation who has grown up during COVID, socializing is not always something they easily do. So back in my days, we had to learn to socialize. And well, back in the days, I can remember some things that I wouldn't like to remember. But yes, we would have fun with one another. There would be cards. When it was birthday, you would treat one another. And if you were in luck, you would get a nice gift. And if you were out of luck, they would smash the cake in your face. It was the time that people could actually smoke in the room. We're in way better situations nowadays. We don't smoke in the office together anymore. That's good. Well, I've never smoked anyway, but that's a whole different ballgame. So getting people to actually understand what's needed, and let me rephrase that, getting people to actually understand one another, that's where the challenge is. So all of these pillars are not just for the employees, they're also for the business owner. Does he take ownership that there are people who do not know what they need to do? Is he aware of them wanting to get support, but they don't dare to go in? So personally, I am all about open and honest communication. And I can understand that you don't want to be bothered 24/7. I mean, there's work that you need to do. So share, when can they contact you? Or if you are the business owner, are there some other people that they can go to? So hence the distinction between business owner, senior, and junior. How are you going to help them out? And basically, it comes back to leadership. So how do you show them? How do you show them that you actually respect them? Because if you are not that nice to them and you're always grumpy, then what can you expect from them? But if you are there and explaining, like, I can't help you all the time, but here are some tools to get you started, that's a whole different story. And if you then say, okay, so you're going to do this, if you are somewhere at this level, so I'm talking like it's a game, of course it's not, but please contact me so we can make sure that we know what we have to do. Then a lot of the investigation and research work is already being done. And well, if you're a senior or you know your business, then probably already based on what they're saying, oh, this is where we need to go from here. Again, you also may want them to actually search online, figure out like, hey, you are used to figuring things out on YouTube and Google. Okay, so there you go. But, share a little bit, take compassion with them. And when it comes to service, do you only give service to your customers? Or are you like, I see you. It's such a little thing to do, but being aware of your surroundings, so the awareness, but also helping someone out when they need a hand, it makes such a big difference. And honestly, it's one of the reasons that when it comes to grocery shopping, I'm not a big fan of going to places where there are no employees walking around and where they just throw the boxes everywhere. It's nice, actually, if you can, tap someone on the shoulder or say, hey, can you help me out? I can reach that. Can you get it for me? Because I'm not that tall. So I usually need a little bit of assistance. Now, in case you're wondering, I've been looking at this and there's something there on the top and there's something on the bottom. What is it? Well, this is about a story which links to this handout. And it says, back in the days, every second mattered. especially when you had to go to the phone booth, right? Because, well, you had a quarter, and it was not like nowadays you can just, there's 4G, there's 5G, you can call on WhatsApp, you can, as long as there's internet, you can do your stuff. Resourcefulness fostered meaningful connections and service. And that's what it's about. How do you approach others? And then I get back to during COVID, when we're talking about being social, some are still out there very social. And then there are some out there and they just don't know how to behave. And I want to add a little something to this. So if you've watched this more often, then you know that I also work with people who are neurodivergent. And I'm a neurodivergent too, which means that we think differently compared to others. With all the input nowadays, the sounds, the lights, the things that are expected from us, there is too much going on. And for a neurodivergent, that means that they need to take a break to recharge. And that's something that they need to learn about themselves, and they also need to be able to communicate it to someone else. Because if they take a break, maybe walk outside, just do their own thing, then during the time that they are taking the break, chances are that, information pops up, they come up with something. So each person has to learn for themselves what works and what doesn't work. Well, for me, if I have someone on the phone who works at, say, a service desk, and the person is talking to me, and there's someone else in the background also talking, it immediately distracts me. So it gives you a little bit of an idea about how easily people can be distracted. And when it comes to being understood, maybe we ask on. And that's the thing. If someone says, do this, do that, what are you thinking about? Maybe it's one question is interpretable for a whole bunch of other things too. Now, the other side is actually about this, and it says nowadays instant connectivity is powerful, but true connection requires depth, intention, and service. And to talk a little bit more about this, I made this handout. So it tells a little something about from necessary to intentional. So when there was nothing, it was necessary to do certain things. It was necessary to come up with ideas. But of course, by the time that we got the cell phone, things changed. So let me ask you a few questions, because I am aware that I didn't ask them many questions just yet. But from all the things that I've said up till now, what have been your thoughts? Do you agree that it's good to help new ones out, to make sure that they think the way you want them to think, as in being resourceful? Have you explained to them what you actually expect from them and not? And the things that you expect from them, are those things they learned in school? Are these things they learned at home? Or is it kind of new to them? So how much do you know, and how much did you ask when they were applying for the job? And when there are only a few candidates, did you say, okay, signed, because otherwise you wouldn't have anyone at all? But then the stress starts. Or did you actually think about it and, okay, this might be a match, this person is resourceful or not? So there is a very important decision to be made when you hire new people, as in, what do they expect from you? And if you are the one who is being hired, then maybe you do want to know what you can expect from your employer. What do they want from you? When do you have to be in? Do you get any guidance? Do you know what you need to do? So how experienced are you? Those are all things that you need to consider. So in the handout, we talk about the evolution of communication from phone booths to smartphone. We also talk about how resourceful you had to be when it was still back in the days and you had to be resourceful. We talk a little bit about cell phones because, well, it seemed very nice when cell phones were introduced. But, well, I don't know about you, but I do remember the times that there was only a limited amount of service. And, you know, when it became New Year's Eve and the clock would go, no more service at all. And same can happen when, you know, when there's power outage or there's an accident going on. So this part, which is about from overwhelm to attention and focus, is actually very important because phones nowadays can distract us. And that's what we want to think about. And then we get back to how are we aware of what we're doing? Are we in a bubble? Do we actually make contact to the people? And I'll honestly say that I'm one of those people who actually can talk to someone, and then after a minute or so, I'm aware that I'm still so busy, and at the same time talking to someone that I haven't looked them in the eye just yet. That's one of the things that actually happens when I put things on the, what do you call that? Where you put on the groceries and it shifts, and then they pick it up and they register it, so you know how much you have to pay. The conveyor belt, that's the word I was looking for. Yeah, I've noticed that I can be in my own world. And like I said, with everything that's going on, a lot of people are in their own bubble nowadays. But yeah, think about that, and also about what it means when you are on your phone 24/7. Have you seen all those people in the waiting area? About their neck, their hands, their fingers. So then we go to exploring the framework. So we talk about the foundation, ownership, we talk about awareness, and there are all these questions here for you to think about. So when it comes to ownership, for instance, what's one specific way you can be resourceful and take ownership of a challenge or project this week? And for leaders, what's one way you can model ownership and resourcefulness for the younger generation so they can see it in action? So every topic actually has some questions, and there's also a little thing which is called practice presence. And for instance, it says practice accountability by asking yourself daily, what's one thing I can take full responsibility for today? No excuses, no blame. It's about owning your actions and outcomes with intentions. So in case you're wondering, practicing presence, what is that about? So presence is the foundation of meaningful contribution. Without it, we can't truly serve or lead. It's what allows you to notice the little things that make a big difference. So basically, we're talking about the bubble again. And when you combine that with daily acts of service, whether it's talking on a task, offering encouragement, or simply listening, you're living out the values of connection and care that truly matter. Now, if you are like, oh, actually, I like what you are talking about. I like the whole idea behind working with a younger generation, or the idea of a workshop. And maybe you heard the word neurodivergent, and they basically talk a different language than I do, or I talk a different language than other people do. Then maybe it's time to reach out. So I've got something, it's called the Steam Power Collective. The Steam Power Collective, they talk to one another twice a month. I'll guide the people, and we are going to talk about things which are going on when you are a leader. So maybe you are an entrepreneur, maybe you are leading a unit, whether it's your family or something else, but you are in charge and you want to do more. Then consider if you would like to have this handout. The handout is for free, by the way. Just go to the link or hit me up. And if you want more, well, there's a group available, so you can all brainstorm on the things that you want to change. Now, if you've listened to this and you are like, Lexi, this helped, but I actually have a different question, then hit me up, put the question in there, put it in the comments, and I'll get back to you, and maybe you can use it for the next topic of this live. So normally the goal is to have this live on Friday night. Due to circumstances, I couldn't do it. So it is always in the weekend. So if it's not on Friday, it'll be on Saturday. And if it's not, it's on Sunday. But if you're more interested specifically about what I talked about today, then on Wednesday, there is going to be a workshop. And if you want to be part of the workshop where we get into these things and we go into it a little bit deeper, then make sure that you reach out to me. Make sure that you can get the handout and you can sign up for that workshop. For now, let me know in the comments what you picked up on, what it is that you missed, and we can talk about that the next time around.